go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles just recently signed Terrence Marshall Jr., wide receiver out of LSU, to a one-year deal, who recently played with the Panthers and his most recent stint with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, some people are excited about it. Some people are not. I think most people quite frankly understand that this is just a signing just to add some more depth. It's a training camp body. Nothing to be too excited about. But the guy's 6'2", 200 pounds. He played at LSU when Joe Burrow was there, so he has a national title. He's young. He's 24 years old, so there's potential there. And he has the body type to play X, the wide receiver position on the outside, as opposed to in the slot like Jahan Dotson does. So, again, this isn't necessarily a signing that should knock your socks off. And quite frankly, there haven't been that many signings from the Philadelphia Eagles that have knocked your socks off. Right? Like a lot of the times, Philadelphia has been known to go after big swings and be really big players in free agency and making huge attempts to go after players in the offseason because they're always in the trade rumors. But this offseason in particular, outside of the Myles Garrett talk, there hasn't really been a lot of swings. There haven't really been a lot of, wow signings. And I think part of the reason is because I think they have grown to learn and appreciate that a lot of success of NFL teams is not just based on star power, right? Now, we know Philadelphia's roster, 1 to 11 on the offense, 1 to 11 on the defense. They're top 22. It's one of the best in football. 100% agree. However, if you look at what happened last season, a lot of the key contributors on this team were players who were not necessarily starting, right? Especially on defense, right? Kobe Dean got hurt in the playoffs. Oren Burke stepped in. Avonte Maddox was originally in the slot. People forget that. He was originally playing slot. He gets hurt. Cooper DeJean steps up and starts to contribute, right? Milton Williams was in the fray. Moro Ojomo was a backup player who ended up making a contribution. Jalex Hunt was a player. Bryce Huff didn't work out. Jalex Hunt stepped in and Nolan Smith stepped in and made a contribution. So a lot of and even on the offensive line, Fred Johnson against the Bengals shut down Trey Hendrickson, who was the leading sack artist in the National Football League last season. So my point being is, key contributors, hell, Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee with the quarterback position. The point being is, it wasn't just the first 22 on this roster that contributed to a Super Bowl. It was 1 through 53. Every member of that team played a precise and pivotal role in what was ultimately a Lombardi Trophy winning season. And I think Philadelphia and the front office and this organization has become more and more aware that, hey, you don't need to make these big splash signings. Some of the best teams in the NFL aren't going for big splash signings, right? That's what a lot of bad football teams do. The Eagles, on the other hand, have looked at this roster and said, hey, you know what? We lost a lot of players like Milton Williams, like Josh Sweat. We need to develop the rest of the roster here. We need to round out the roster so that the drop-off isn't so severe if somehow injuries occur. That's what made this Super Bowl team last year so phenomenal. Every member contributed. It's why you haven't seen a splash signing at edge. You have Bryce, you signed Josh Uche, you signed Ojolari, you have all the defensive tackle players like Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, Jalen Carter, right? At linebacker, you have Nakobe Dean, you got Trotter, and you have Van Sumer, and you have Zach Bond. At cornerback, you signed Adoree Jackson, but you have Keely Ringo, and you have Cooper, and you have Quinyon. Safety, you have Sidney Brown, you have Reed Blankenship. And again, that's probably one of the holes on the defense right now at safety. Offensive side of the ball, you bring in Kenyon Green, you let go of Mekhi Becton, but you have Tyler Steen and Trevor Keegan at guard. You bring in Matt Pryor to potentially be a player at guard. You're bringing in Terrence Marshall on the offensive side of the ball in the wide receiver room. You bring in DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. You trade Kenny Pickett to the Browns. You have Tanner McKee, right? Like all of these players, not superstar signings by any means, but they're going to be key contributors to what could be a really successful football season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And my discussion for today is whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles have made the transition now to valuing depth more than star power, and why I believe having depth in the NFL is more important than having star power. And I think most fans would agree with this blanket statement, even though they want every team that they root for to go after the big name players out there. Depth is more important than star power, and we're going to get into that conversation in just a moment. But before you do that, you know what it is. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Badi, and like you, I am a Birds fan who talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here, help us grow the channel organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. It helps me get out to as many Eagle fans out there on the World Wide Web. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review because it doesn't cost you a damn thing. And ladies and gentlemen, I know the economy has been going up and down, but no matter what way you slice it, free stuff is free stuff, and free entertainment is always a good thing. So subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing, and we thank you for your overall support. Depth is more important than star power, ladies and gentlemen. Every team in the modern era has shown you having depth is more important, particularly the Patriots and the Chiefs, because those are probably the two most winningest teams of the modern era, at least since I started watching football. I started watching football in 2007. And hell, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, their best teams in 2017, 2022, 2024. All three of those teams have a commonality in that they were deep 1 through 53. Their roster had a lot of really talented players. It wasn't just star power. Every player contributed. Hell, we won our first Super Bowl with a backup QB, ladies and gentlemen. Did we forget that our first Super Bowl was with Big Dick Nick? 2022. It wasn't just the star power play of Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and this offense, but it was players like, James Bradbury, who we signed late in free agency, players who we got late like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Reed Blankenship came in the next season and played really, really well. It was players like Kazir White, who we signed to a 1-year deal. Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh. I mean, we signed a lot of veteran players on that defense who contributed to winning football. It was no different in 2024. Every player mattered. Look at the roster. In 2017, we picked up Jay Ajayi mid-season. You had LeGarrette Blount. You had Corey Clement. Nick Foles, who was the backup after Carson Wentz's all MVP season. Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey. Again, not superstar players by any means, but all of them contributed. The Patriots have been a dynasty with Brady and Belichick over 20 years, all based on getting rid of star players a year too early rather than a year too late. And it's because they always had a guy right behind him, next man up, to step up and play good football. Do your job. 1 through 53. Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, you got Mahomes. 100%. And you have Kelsey and you have Chris Jones. But look at what they did after the Tyreek Hill trade. You get rid of Tyreek Hill and you're bringing guys like George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie. You're bringing in, you develop players like Nick Bolton into the fray. You bring in guys like Frank Clark, who's the all-time leading playoff sack leader. You get rid of Shadarvius Ward, and you're bringing in other young players in. Juju Smith-Schuster turns into, Rashid Rice, and, guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire turn into Isaiah Pacheco, and you bring in Kareem Hunt, and, Chad Henne was a backup quarterback for the Chiefs, and he ended up converting a fourth down play in one of their first Super Bowl runs against the Cleveland Browns that iced them the game. 1 through 53 is important, guys. And I think every fan understands this. But for a while, Philadelphia, for a very long while, was shooting for superstar after superstar, trying to get big splash plays, trying to get big signings in order to achieve the ultimate success. But now you see 1-year deals on veteran minimums. You're seeing it, not taking big, huge swings and risks in free agency. You're seeing it now. I mean, look, people are talking about bringing on Justin Simmons at safety because we have such a hole there. Philadelphia is looking at this and saying, hey, do we really have to rush to get Justin Simmons? Why do we have to rush? You have the draft. Let's see what we got over here. And if there's any talent out there in free agency, we'll go after that too. It's not like we don't have to make the big splash signing of going after these players. And I learned quickly. I was one of the proponents of trying to get Myles Garrett here. I learned very damn quickly. I got bamboozled, led astray, run amok, however you want to describe it. They were never in the game for Myles Garrett. They weren't in the game for any big free agency signing this offseason. What they are concerned with, like I said in past episodes, they're worried about money, 100%, and you can see that in the reflection of their signings. But the thing that they're worried about the most is replacing the depth that they lost. Yes, you lost 5 starters on defense, but you know what ends up happening now? Those backups have to step up and become starters. And even some of those backups left to go play for other teams. And now all of a sudden you have to replace 2 positions at maybe a position. Cornerback, for example. You had Darius Slay and you had Isaiah Rodgers. Both of them gone. Yeah, you have Keely Ringo, but now you have to bring in an Adoree Jackson into the fray. You have Eli Ricks. I get that. Linebacker. You lose Oren Burks. You have Jeremiah Trotter, and you hope Nakobe Dean comes back healthy. Defensive tackle, you lose Milton Williams. You hope to the good Lord that Moro Ojomo was able to step up and take on those snaps. But now you're looking into the draft potentially trying to get a defensive tackle and maybe a defensive lineman because you also lost Josh Sweat. So you bring in Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari. You lose Mekhi Becton. You bring on Kenyon Green. You have Tyler Steen. You have Trevor Keegan. You sign Matt Pryor. You lose Fred Johnson. You lose Britton Covey, who was a couple of years ago the best punt returner in football, and you sign Avery Williams. The team right now is prioritizing roster depth. They don't care if you're a superstar anymore. And to me, as an Eagle fan, and I think to you as an Eagle fan, seeing that transition means that this team, 1, yes, they're concerned about money, but 2, it leads to a longer lasting level of success than trying to go for home runs every single time. It's okay to hit singles and hit doubles and hit triples every now and then. You don't need to go for the long ball every single time. Getting on base in baseball is the most important stat versus being a home run king. Yeah, the long ball is great and it means guaranteed runs. But getting on base is what will win you in the MLB. And again, I am not sitting here pretending to be an MLB expert, ladies and gentlemen. I don't watch baseball. I think it's terrible. But from just the logical perspective about baseball, if you can get on base, your chances of scoring runs are just going to go astronomically up. That's the point of the game. Get on base. In the NFL, the best way to get on base is to build depth. Forget superstars. Forget big swing signings. Build 1 through 53 the best you possibly can, because injuries are going to happen in the NFL. Losses are going to happen in this league. And you need capable players from the top guy to the bottom guy to be able to step up and contribute in a way that leads to the ultimate goal of success. And Philadelphia has officially this offseason, and even in past off seasons now, has officially transitioned into their phase of trying to attain long-term excellence. Roster depth is greater than star power, and Philadelphia has officially realized that right now. Hey, thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.